Good morning guys. In this video we are going to talk about the history of Rajasthan. This video may be a little longer because the content is too much, as after all we are talking about history, right? So I will try to split it and we will do it into parts. So first we look at the history of Rajasthan over here. A popular Indian saying is that the Rajasthan alone has more history than any rest of the country put together, given that its name literally translated the lands of kings. Okay, so Rajasthan is also known as called lands of kings. So let's have a look at how all these things began, how this started, the history of the Rajasthan. So the desert and arid areas of Rajasthan have been home for the humans for several thousand years, if you look back. The excavation in the Kalibanga near Ganganagar in northern Rajasthan. Okay, this kind of question they ask, the Kalibanga, where it is located, right, near Ganganagar. So have unearthed the terracotta pottery, okay, and jewelry dating back to around 3000 BC. Evidence of this region's earliest known settlement. Okay, some of the urban centers were presumably observed into the Harappan segment of the Indus Valley civilization, where they flourished until the settlement was mysteriously abandoned. Okay, and now this whole settlement was mysteriously abandoned. Okay, almost 3,700 years ago during the Harappan time. So where these people they have gone, why they left? So the mass exodus. Okay, an exodus is what? It is like a situation when people leave a place at the same time. All the people they move to some different location, right, together, or they disappear somewhere. So possibly triggered. Now what are the reason? What causes this could be? Why the people why this mass exodus took place? Because of the flooding or severe climatic change. Okay, rendered the regions devoured. Okay, and devoured means without human being. So main reason was the flooding and the climate change. This has been considered, right? So region which are considered is flooding and climatic change. Okay, so and because of this there was a mass exodus. Okay, and of the human settlements. So indigenous tribes such as the Bhils and Minas. Now see here, the Bhil and Mina are called here the indigenous. Indigenous meaning what? They are the native. Okay, they are the original of the place. Okay, they moved into set up their own squabbling small kingdom. Okay, squabbling means they have always have the disagreement of the thoughts and ideas among them. So they settled the Bhils and Minas, they settled the small kingdoms, and there were commencing a long history of argumentative neighbors in the region. Okay, further, but even as the tribes tore away means to remove each other. Okay, because there was a kind of competition among them. So these tribes were fighting among themselves indirectly, right? So another they tore away each other. Another civilization was sprouting. Sprouting means developing in the fertile plains of the east of Rajasthan. Okay, between the Yamuna and Ganga, that is also known as called Ganges, out of the semi-nomadic Indo-European race known as Aryans or noblemen. Okay, and it was in this civilization that Hinduism first evolved as a religious tradition and a way of life. Okay, along with a complex called patriarchal. Now, what is patriarchal? Patriarchal society is such a society in which the control is in the hand of men, okay, and not in the hand of women. Means male dominating society, patriarchal society. So patriarchal social structure and tired means the levels of the caste system. Means the society was also divided into the different levels of the caste system, that you are this and that. So this all kind of a disunity among the local tribes of the Rajasthan. The caste system that the greater Indian society adheres to give even today. By 1000 BC, the province had seen the establishment of at least two prominent kingdoms. Okay, by the time of 1000 BC, there were two prominent, means the two main kingdoms. Now, which were these two main kingdoms? We will see over here. So, these two main kingdoms, the one was here the Matsya territory of Viratnagar. Okay, and composing means including the area of your Alwar, Bharatpur, Dholpur, and Karoli, and Indrapast, the earliest known incarnation of Delhi, right, which is known as called your Delhi now, which was successively built on by several dynasties to come. Okay, further it says that very little is known about actual history of the Rajasthan's development. At this time, as the mighty empires, okay, that were then strengthened their hold on the subcontinent largely chose to pass over the state. Which state? Rajasthan state. So Alexander the Great, who reached as far as Punjab on his epic campaign to conquer the known world, was forced to return when his troops, homesick and weary after the campaign, convinced him to retreat. Means even Aurangzeb came back, right, all the way from there. The Mauryan Empire, that was your period of 323 to 185 BC, had minimal impact too. Okay, largely due to its most renowned emperor, that was Ashoka. Ashoka was one of the greatest king of Mauryan Empire that lasts for 323 to 185 BC. Okay, taking to non-violent ways after he converted to Buddhism. Okay, and first what he did, Ashoka adopted the non-violent ways. Okay, as he has converted himself to which religion? Buddhism. He adopted Buddhism. In stark contrast to the atrocities he had inflicted on the eastern Indian kingdom of Kalinga. The only evidence that Ashoka left of his reign or his period in Rajasthan were the Buddhist cave and stupas, okay, that is known as called Buddhist shrines or the temples near Jhalawar. Which place that is near Jhalawar? That you need to remember. They may ask the question, where is the Buddhist caves found in the Rajasthan? So this is the only, or which is the only evidence of Ashoka's presence in the Rajasthan, right? So this is located in your Jhalawar. The rock cut edicts at a place known as called Bairat. Bairat is in like near Jhalawar, in your Jhalawar, and an ancient Buddhist site near Sariskar Tiger Reserve and National Park. Okay, so these are the evidence of that Ashoka was here in the Rajasthan and he followed Buddhism. Plus, there is a 13-meter high pillar he inscribed in Delhi. Now next we are going to discuss about the Huns and the advent of the kings. So the insulation that Rajasthan enjoyed through its early year came to an abrupt means sudden. Okay, it came to the sudden end during the 5th century AD. Now how it came, let's see. And when the armies of fierce Hun warriors, okay, they came to India. They entered, right? They rode from the Central Asia. From where they came from Central Asia to carry out a series of raids across North India. And what they have done, they have conducted the raids. They conducted loots in the northern parts of India. These raids were to alter, means to change the course of the region's history in the two major ways. And this has given the big impact, and it has affected Indian history, Rajasthan history, into two big ways. Let's start with that, which says they, means the Hun, resulted in the disintegration. Disintegration means the breaking down, right, of the Gupta dynasty. This was the first thing they did, that they saw the Gupta dynasty was flourishing, so they break down that first, which had taken over from the Mauryas as a central power and had reigned over the country from 320 to 550. But more importantly, they triggered means they caused a parallel invasion as the Rajputs finally came to make Rajasthan their home, and in the absence of an overreaching monarchy grew from strength to usher in the golden age of Rajasthan. Guys, here are some interesting facts more about it. It says the historical evidence suggests that the Rajputs, as their name, meaning of their name is the children of kings. Okay, they fled. Fled means to, is a past tense of flee. It means to run away. Okay, so they fled their homelands from Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, and Uttar Pradesh to settle in Rajasthan. So basically, the origin of them is lying where? In Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, and Uttar Pradesh. They primarily, why do they came now? To escape the wrath. Wrath means anger of white Huns. Okay, so as we have seen in the earlier paragraph that the Huns were attacking, right? They were coming from Central Asia and they were invading the northern India. So all this part, that is Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, this is the part, especially Punjab and Haryana, right? This is the part of your northern India. So this is where the Huns were attacking. Okay, and later even the Arabs, they also came. Okay, so who had begun to storm from Pakistan and Afghanistan. So from where these Huns and Arabs were coming, they were coming from the countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan. And once they missed, the Rajputs they had arrived in Rajasthan, okay, the Rajputs trampled over, okay, and what they did, they trampled over the bheels and minas and set up their own small fiefdoms, okay. And what is fiefdoms? Fiefdoms is an organization or the department over which one dominant person or the group exercise control. Okay. Now, in the face of mounting local chaos, though they largely belong to the lower rungs of Hindu society. Okay, here we are talking about they means we are talking about the Rajputs. They belong to the steps of a lower rungs of Hindu society. The volatile circumstances. Okay, means they want to change the circumstances and demanded that the Rajputs don't should be put as a warrior. They demanded what? They demanded to become warriors, if only to fend off. Fend off means to defend further advances by the foreign invaders, so that they can fight. They wanted the Rajputs, they wanted to become the warriors to fight this kind of foreign invaders or the attackers. So, in spite of the rigid social norms, okay, which they did not allow for any kind of self promotion earlier, Rajput clans such as the Gurjar, Pratiharas, okay, crossed the caste barriers to proclaim themselves as Kshatriyas. So what they have done, Rajput, they have broken their social claims, norms, and they have proclaimed themselves as Kshatriyas. That we are the Kshatriyas means we are the warriors. And these Kshatriyas, they were the only class. This was the class who came second only to the Brahmins. Those were the praised in the caste of hierarchy. So to facilitate their smooth transition through social ranks and to avoid the stinging criticism from the Brahmins. So now here what happens, to avoid the criticism from the Brahmins, what the Rajputs did, these early Rajput clans choose to jettison. Now jettison means to get rid of their worldly ancestors. Okay, means to talk about their origin. Okay, and took to trumpeting. Now took to trumpeting means to talk about something publicly and to spread it. They took to trumpeting what? A mythological genealogy. Means what they've started, Rajputs, they've started spreading a mythological genealogy. It means the genealogy means the actual meaning is the study of family. So what they said, that they supposedly evolved from the celestial origins. Means Rajput, they said that they are actually derived from what? They are derived from celestial or the divine origins. Okay. From the 6th century onwards, some of the clans of Rajputs began calling themselves as Suryavanshi, and some of them, they see how they are associating themselves. The Suryavanshi, they were known as called the descendants of the sun. Okay. While others choose to be known as the Chandravanshis. Okay. It means Chandravanshi means those who are descendants of moon. And a third Rajput dynasty, on the other hand, traced their roots to be from the sacrificial fire that was lit on Mount Abu during the Mauryan era, thereby naming themselves as Agnivanshis. Okay, Agnivanshis means they are born from fire, right? So this is how the Rajputs, they were actually hiding their original identity, and they were claiming as themselves as a celestial origin. This is what the meaning of this paragraph. Now further what happened, that slowly the Rajputs, they grip over the Rajasthans, and they earn a reputation of chivalry. And chivalry means a polite and kind behavior by men, okay, which shows respect towards the women. Okay, so they got this respect, or they earned this reputation of chivalry, noble tradition, and strict code of conduct. They gave rise to the several dynasties, okay, which established some of the most renowned means some of the popular priestly states of Rajasthan. The largest of these kingdoms and the third largest in India after Kashmir and Hyderabad was your Marwar kingdom. They have given rise to what? To the Marwar kingdom, which was founded by your Suryavanshi Rathors. Who founded Marwar kingdom? That is Suryavanshi Rathors, who rode in from Uttar Pradesh, and where actually the Suryavanshi Rathors actually they came from Uttar Pradesh, and it was initially ruled from Mandor. Before the seat of power was relocated to the Mehrangarh fort in nearby Jodhpur. Now the another clan of the Rajput, that was your Shishodya, those who were actually migrated from Gujarat to assemble in the folds of the Aravalli hills, and where they settled in Rajasthan nearby Aravalli hill areas to the south. Okay, where they formed a state of Mewar. And which state they have formed? Mewar. Now there is a difference between these two words, guys. You need to notice Mewar is different from your Marwar. All right. And which areas were covered under this Mewar was your Chittorgarh and Udaipur. The another one was your Kachwas. Okay, they came from the Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh and they settled in Jaipur in eastern Rajasthan. Their capital nestled in the twin fort complex of Amber and Jaigarh. Meanwhile, a fourth kingdom called Jaisalmer also emerged as a kingdom at that time. So it was established in the Thar Desert by the Bhatis. Bhatis is the name of the one of the community of this Rajput. So obscured here means not clear. By the dunes, the Bhatis remains more or less entra- entrenched. Entrenched means they were not much more concerned, right? Or this showing an attitude or the habit or the belief firmly established by difficult or unlikely to change. So they were not ready to accept what was going on. So in their kingdom especially. So Jaisalmer was integrated into the state of Rajasthan after the independence. Now, further it says the one dynasty was the exception, that was the Chauhans. Okay, they settled in Ajmer, from where they gradually extended their rule into Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. Now, within Rajasthan, the Hada offset is a small organization that developed from the larger one. So, Hadas, the offset means they derived from where of the Chauhans crossed over the Hadoti region and captured the cities of Bundi and Kota, while the Deora branch took over the nearby Siroi. So this is where the Deoras they settled. They settled in Siroi, and the Hadas they settled in the areas of the Bundi and Kota. Okay, this we have seen. Deoras settled in their Siroi and making way for the successive generation to zero in on the provinces of Ranthambore, Kishangarh, and Sekhavati. Now further it says the Prithviraj III kings. Okay, he invaded Delhi, then on one of its temporary wings, and commissioned the building of a settlement called Fort Rai Pithora. The ramparts mean the boundaries, of which can still be seen near the Qutub Minar in Mehroli. One of the few Hindu kings to hold the fort in Delhi was Prithviraj Chauhan was one of them. Administered his empire from the twin capital of Kilar Rai Pithora and Ajmer. Okay, this was his two uh, capitals, right, of your Prithviraj Chauhan, Prithviraj III, that is. Before his reign was put to an end by Islamic warriors. Okay, and who defeated him, and because of whom he gave up with his all this kingdom, because of the Islamic warriors who galloped in by the thousands to change the face of the uh, region forever. They galloped in means they came, a large army came, okay, to attack on him. Our next topic of discussion is about the sword of Islam in under this. So, some 400 years after the Prophet Muhammad introduced Islam into Arabia, okay, northern India saw the arrival of the Muslims with the banner of Islam fluttering high. Okay, forces seized the provinces of Sindh in Pakistan now these days. Okay, so that at that time it was the Sindh was the part of India. So this is where they came, and then moved on to occupy formerly Buddhist city of Ghazni, okay, in neighboring Afghanistan. At the beginning of the 11th century, this all happened. Now, the Turk warrior led by a fearsome Sultan Muhammad Ghazni, okay, the Ghazni at that time entered India, razing hundreds of Hindu temples, okay, and plundering means looting them. The reasons taking away the vast amounts of wealth to fill their coffers. Okay. And what is this coffers are? Coffers are the large boxes to contain the valuable things. Okay. So the Turks made their raids into India almost an annual affair. Annual affair means almost every year once the Turks were coming to India. Okay. And ransacking. Ransacking means to search a place, okay, and to finding it what best they can take from here. Further, it says the northern part of the country 17 times in as many years jolted out from the internal bickering. And what is this bickering? Bickering means the small arguments, okay, among the local rulers. The Rajput princes organized some hasty defense, but their army was torn to shreds means to the pieces. Even before they could retaliate, means they can fight back. Before only their army was kind of broken. Rajasthan had been incorporated into the Islamic Empire. Okay, Now further it says the trouble, however, came by the name of Muhammad of Ghori, governor of Ghazni, who invaded India in the 12th century, defeating Rajput king Prithviraj Chauhan in the second battle of Tarain. Okay, Ghori left Delhi under the governorship of Qutbuddin Aibak, a former Turk slave, who had risen to command forces in India. With news of Ghori's death, decade and a half later, the Qutbuddin claimed the Indian parts of the Ghori's empire. He declared himself Sultan of the region and founded the Mulk or slave dynasty, okay, giving Delhi the first of its Islamic monarchies. Now, further it says the encroachment of the Qutbuddin Aibak began the Sultanate era of Delhi, which lasted for about 350 years. Throughout this period, Delhi was ruled by five different Islamic dynasties. Before the first period of Mughal rule in 1526, the Mamluks means we are talking about the slave dynasties, okay, created the city of Mamluks, they created what the city of Mehroli, while the Khiljis, they seated their capital at Siri, and the Tughlaqs constructed the fort of Tughlaqabad and Firoz Shah Kotla. There was one further sultanate founded by the rebellious governor of Bihar, okay, Bihar, Sher Shah Shuri, who seized means took into control from the Mughal Empire Humayun in 1540 and founded his brief dynasty at Sehergarh before Humayun reclaimed his empire in 1555 during this period. The whole of the Gangetic basin came under the Sultanate's control, as did the Rajasthan and Gujarat. The princely states there had little option but to bow down to their might or to their power. Okay, further we have the entry of the Mughals in India. So Babur was a Turkic Mongol lineage. Lineage is a series of families that someone comes from originally, right? That is called lineage. Included the great warriors such as your Genghis Khan, Taimur the Lem, marched into India through where they came to in Punjab, defeating Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat in 1526 to establish the Mughal dynasty in the country. Okay, once he means the Babur had seized Delhi, the Babur focused his attention. Now, once the Delhi was under their control, now the Babur's second attention was what he was targeting on the Rajasthan, that he has to cover Rajasthan now, where many princely states, okay, anticipating his moves, had already band together to form a united front under the Sisodia king Rana Sangha. So all this princely state, they were fighting against whom? They were fighting against the Sisodia king of Rana Sangha. And Babur, he took the advantage of this chaos in Delhi. The Rajputs had meanwhile clued back into the power race, and the states such as the Mewar had become formidable enough to pose a considerable threat to the rulers of Delhi. Babur, however, squared everything by defeating the Rajput alliances in a blood-spattered battle where several Rajput chiefs, including Rana Sangha, fell to the enemy's wrath. Okay. The defeat, which shook the foundation of the Rajput states, also left the Mughals as the undisputed rulers of the northern India. Now, further it says the Mughal supremacy was briefly cut back in the mid of the 16th century by Sher Shah Shuri, okay, who defeated Babur's successor Humayun to give Delhi its sixth and final sultanate. Okay, Humayun reclaimed Delhi 14 years later, and upon his accidental death, was succeeded by his 13-year-old son Akbar. Okay, so Akbar was the son of Humayun, known as the greatest of the Mughal empires. Okay, Akbar ruled for almost 49 years, right? That is why it is known as called the greatest of all the Mughal emperors. Now here Akbar has been called as a master diplomat, that he was a master diplomat, used both the tact and the military force to expand and consolidate the Mughal empire in India. Now Akbar came to know that he has used what? Both military force to expand. He cannot alone, this military force cannot only help to defeat Rajputs. Okay, so realizing that thing, what Akbar has done, realizing that the Rajput could not be conquered on the battlefield alone, Akbar arranged a marriage alliance, okay, with a princess of important Kachwa claim, okay, which held Ambir, okay, that is called Jodha. His name was Jodha Akbar, right? That movie also came on that, and even choose the Rajput warriors to head his armies. Okay, honored by this gesture, the Kachwas, unlike other Rajputs, align means what they did, they supported Akbar, okay, themselves to the powerful Mughals, and Akbar succeeded in winning over the on the one of the biggest Rajput state, and this is how the Akbar controlled Rajasthan, right? So this was this Kachwas, those who supported whom they supported Akbar, and what was the diplomacy used by Akbar in this regard, that he married to the Jodha. And further it says, of course, when the diplomacy did not work, Akbar resorted to war. He came back to the war. He conquered Ajmer and later proceeded to take the mighty forts of Chittorgarh and Ranthambore also. So gradually all the important Rajput state except Mewar had acknowledged the Mughal sovereignty and became a vassal states. Now what are these vassal states? Any state that has a mutual obligation to a superior state or empire, right? So, but even as he was well on his way to becoming the supreme ruler of India, Akbar became more tolerant in many ways. He married a Hindu Rajput princess and encouraged a good relationship between Hindus and Muslims. So this was the reason that why the Akbar has been called a successful ruler. Right? These are the certain reasons for that. Okay, he has given a special status. Rajputs was special privileges was given to them, so that they were embraced within the empire. A monarch with a great social insight. He discouraged the child marriages. Okay, and he also discouraged what child marriages, and he banned sati pratha also. This is a ritual or suicide of a widow on her husband's funeral, uh, and arrange a special market days for women. Okay, Akbar's reign also saw an unprecedented economic boom. Boom is growth in the country, as well as the great development in the art and architecture. Now, further is about the last Mughal greats, right, or the last Mughal ruler we are talking about. Okay, so further it said that Jahangir, who was Jahangir, that was Akbar's son, was the next Mughal emperor who ruled from 1605 to 27, and he ruled alongside the adored Persian wife Noor Jahan. Okay, and Noor Jahan, and he brought power of the Persian influence to the court. The Noor Jahan also commenced the beautiful, that is called Itimat ud Dola. Okay, the first Mughal structure to be built in marble in Agra. So this Itimad Uddula, it is also known as called your Bacha Taj Mahal. It is located till date. Right, you can see the images of this on the Google. If you will search for it, you will get it. This you can write down this name and you can see that, right. This was the first marble construction which was done in Agra. Okay, and this was dedicated for her parents. The Rajputs maintained a cordial, means a warm relationship with the Mughals through Jahangir's rule. Till Jahangir's rules, everything was all right. A notable development being that Uday Singh, the king of Udaipur, ended the Mewar's reservations about the Muslims by befriending Jahangir. Okay. Now everything, now Jahangir's period was considered as the end. Okay, so every good thing has an ending, right? So the Jahangir's period in the office, it says, as his descendants greater emphasis on the Islam began to rock the relative peace in the region. Now upon Jahangir's death, now as the Jahangir's death took place, the Prince Khurram. Now, who is this Khurram? Khurram is your Shahjahan. This is the actual name of him. Okay, the Prince Khurram, assuming the title of Shahjahan, meaning monarch of the world. This is the meaning of the word called Shahjahan. Okay, his reign was the pinnacle. Pinnacle means one of the topmost time we can say, right, of Mughal power. Till Shahjahan it was all right. Now look, these predecessors. Shahjahan was a patron of art, means he loved arts, and some of the finest example of Mughal art and architecture he has given in our history. And what these examples include? These examples include one of the best example is your Taj Mahal, right? An extravagant means something too much, work of extreme refinement and the beauty. The Shahjahan also commenced works on Delhi's seventh incarnation, okay, and Shahjahanabad, that is known as called, constructing the Red Fort and Jama Masjid. So this all is the contribution of Shahjahan. Unfortunately, the empire harbored high military ambitions, and means they have high military ambitions, and often bled the country's financial resources to meet their own whims, means their whims in conducting the loots and raids, okay, for their financial need. His execution of the state treasury did not go down well with the Rajputs, and towards the end of the Shahjahan's rule, the Rajputs and the Mughals had become uneasy bedfellows, means they become difficult. It became difficult for Shahjahan to defeat them. The things worsened with the time, okay, they become bad. And when the Aurangzeb became the last great Mughal emperor in 1658, deposing his father, who died in imprisonment at Musamun Burj in Agra 8 years later. An Islamic hardliner, okay, Aurangzeb quickly made enemies in the region. Okay, and now what happened? Aurangzeb was not able to control the whatever power and authority he has. He was not able to control it properly, and he created so many enemies. His guilt saw him devoting all his resources to extending the Mughal empire's boundaries. His government's emphasis on Islam alienated, right? Islam alienated means to make the people feel that they cannot share your opinion anymore, right? So now there was a kind of disharmony between your Hindus and the Muslim subject at the Aurangzeb time period. Now, what other wrong policies of the Aurangzeb was at that time, which causes the fall of the empire? That he implemented the punitive taxes, banned on the building of the new temples. He destroyed many more, okay, and forbade the music and ceremonies at the court. Challenges to his power mounted steadily as the people reacted against his doorline. And when he claimed his right over the Jodhpur in 1678, okay, not only this, finally when in 1678 Aurangzeb he claimed his right on Jodhpur, and this what happened because of this, the Rajputs they turned into the full scale warrior, okay, and they came to they means Rajputs were ready to fight against him at that time. Then before long there was insurgency of all sides, which only increased when the Aurangzeb died in 1707, leaving the empires in the hands of a line of inefficient successors given to Bohemian. And who are these Bohemian? Bohemian means the people, those who are interested, kind of hippie kind of people, right? They are much more interested in art and culture rather than administrative things. Okay, so they had no interest in it, and this is how this whole empire came to fall. So okay guys, in this video we are talking till here only, because already the video has become very long. So hopefully I will come up with the second part of it, right? So till then, bye bye and have a nice day.